In 1971, Stanley Kubrick once singled out the Oxbow incident in an interview about A Clockwork Orange, claiming that it was bad art because its central argument is that lynching is wrong because good people might be lynched. His perspective makes sense in comparing this film with A Clockwork Orange, because A Clockwork Orange suggests that an immoral act against a person shouldn't take their past actions into account, since they are a human being. A humanistic, yet surprisingly controversial perspective. This perspective has always made me curious about the Oxbow incident, which I finally watched today. I'm not sure I agree with Kubrick's assessment, however. The Oxbow incident is more complex than he suggests. The film ultimately argues that lynching is wrong full stop. Spoilers for the Oxbow incident. The Oxbow incident is based on a novel by Walter Van Tilburg Clark. It was his first novel. The film chronicles a posse that becomes a lynch mob when a respected cattle farmer named Kincaid is murdered. They find the supposed murderers and interrogate them. Despite the fact they have no bill of sale, they purchase cattle from Kincaid. This posse doesn't believe them and hangs them. One of the supposed murderers is in possession of Kincaid's gun, which they only discover after the lynching, however. The posse head back into town only to discover that Kincaid survived and the men who shot him have been arrested. Kubrick's perspective doesn't take into account, although the lynched characters were innocent, the story is a moral and psychological examination of how lynch mobs will attack with little to no evidence, and the dangers of groupthink mentality. The message doesn't entirely hinge on the fact that the supposed murderers were innocent, but the lynch mob would have attacked regardless of whether or not they were, to satisfy a twisted sense of mob justice. In many ways, the Oxbow incident is an anti-12 Angry Men in its story, in that 12 Angry Men is about a dissenting juror who doesn't want to send a young man to death row regardless of the overwhelming evidence of his guilt, because of the slight chance that he's not guilty.
Now, are you trying to tell me that this knife really fell through a hole in the boy's pocket? Someone picked it up off the street, went to the boy's house, and stabbed his father with it just to test its sharpness?
No, I'm just saying it's possible the boy lost his knife, and that somebody else stabbed his father with a similar knife. It's just possible.
Take a look at this knife. It's a very unusual knife. I've never seen one like it. Neither had the storekeeper who sold it to the boy. Aren't you asking us to accept a pretty incredible coincidence?
I'm just saying a coincidence is possible.
And I say it's not possible.
Notably, 12 Angry Men and the Oxbow incident both star actor Henry Fonda. Ultimately, the Oxbow incident is about how shooting first and asking questions later is a fundamental aspect of human nature. It's about how confirmation bias can cloud judgment, especially with mob mentality adding fuel to the fire. Kubrick's assessment may have been somewhat simplistic, but his assessment inspired him to craft his own masterpiece, which I'm grateful exists in the first place.